Hi, spring has sprung, and you know the great thing about it is real estate has turned the corner in many parts of Atlanta. In North Atlanta, we're excited to see a lot of new construction going on, and it's bringing new energy into the market out there. And the serious part of real estate is we're finally getting back to a point where in Fortune magazine, Wall Street Journal, they're all starting to talk about the low risk, high investment opportunities that are right around, how about that, real estate. So I think it's an awesome time, and what I really want to do is bring something to you from the perspective of, let's look at real estate as a true investment. And right now is the best time to do it because I believe we are carving that bottom out right here in North Atlanta. So I brought Todd Burkhalter, the Director of Financial Planning with Catalyst Wealth Management. He's going to talk to us about maybe putting in some safeguards for yourself and your family, so that over time you can have a great portfolio of wealth, and a good bit of it can be centered around real estate. Kind of cool to be talking about that. So we're going to talk to Todd Burkhalter on this edition of Talk to Terry. Okay, Todd, so I greatly appreciate you coming out to talk to Terry this time. And got some questions for you, because really I think as we go through the motions, you know, it used to be about, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. People didn't save up, they didn't have 3 to 4 months or 6 months in reserves, and they were going and buying homes, and if they didn't have 1 month of wages coming in, it was going back.
Yeah.
When you look at somebody's portfolio, if you will, and they're going to buy a residential home for their primary residence, just that, what would you think, or what would you advise somebody to make sure that they have in reserves so that they can still do their other investing with you, but have a good solid plan in place? What would you recommend for somebody?
Typically we talk in terms of having 3 to 6 months of gross income in a place where it is not affected by the market, meaning the stock market, and it's also easily accessible to you without penalty. So with that in mind, if somebody were looking to make a purchase or looking to do something different, or maybe even if their job may be perceived as turbulent, maybe you want to stretch that up to get closer to 6 to 12 months worth of time that you can account for without income.
So even though they might want that home really bad, and it might stretch them to where they only have 3 months worth of money sitting in the bank there, gross income, you really would more say, hey, be more cautious and let's not get in the habits that we got into before.
Yeah, bad habits lend themselves to further bad habits, and so that mistake could potentially lead to one more and more down the road. And so having an emergency reserve really allows you to help turn more into opportunistic, looking at opportunities. And so it's not always perceived solely as an emergency reserve. That money sitting there can easily be turned into, when something is a good deal, a home or maybe an investment of any other type, you can take action on it. Most people don't have that luxury.
Okay, you said one word in that and it kind of went, oh, you said opportunistic, opportunity. Let me ask you this. You have been in the money management, financial world for quite some time. You're very knowledgeable. When you say opportunity, how do you really feel? Like, I'm in real estate business, so I love real estate, doesn't matter how bad it is. I think it's great. What's your real gut feel on where we are in the marketplace today in North Atlanta?
Well, it is, certainly we've seen home prices be depressed. You know, that you've certainly talked about that in the past, and I think we probably are at a bottom. We're seeing a lot of new construction going on, and it really still needs to be a very personal decision, and it doesn't really have a great impact on what else is going on in the economy. It's how does it affect your economy? And so in our process, we go through a very detailed look at protection, at savings, and at growth opportunities that relate to that individual client and how it affects their wealth objectives. And so we really don't pay a lot of attention to the noise that exists around us. We put it in a model format to see how it affects you as an individual.
You know, I think I know what you mean when you say prices are depressed, but it kind of hit me differently because I got my home appraised recently and then I was depressed. So it's kind of interesting, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Right.
And it is a great opportunity out there. Let me ask you this, because we are starting to see a lot of people wanting to invest in real estate as an investment. Okay?
Yeah.
Rental market,
We
that
get
type
asked
thing.
that all the time.
How many months worth of inventory, not months worth of inventory, how many months worth of cash payments should somebody have saved up before they really get serious about buying an investment property as a rental? Because we know when you rent a home, you go put it on the market, it's not going to rent day one.
Right.
So you got to plan for that home to be sitting vacant for, what would you say?
I think you got to provide for a year's worth of downtime. I think you ought to also, in addition to that, you need to prepare for some upgrades that you might have to make into the home to get it to a point to make it attractive to the renter. But prior to getting to all that, I think there's some necessary steps that most people skip in their financial planning process. Probably doesn't address it. It's how you purchase the home. And so we would advise you to create some type of legal entity to make that purchase, so as to, if there's an accident, if there's something that happens on that property, it doesn't bring into play all the other assets that you own in terms of any kind of litigation that you might get into with a renter or somebody working on the property, or just, who knows, accidents happen.
So for instance, when I was investing, I would go and open up each property with its own LLC.
Yeah, great.
Whether it was myself doing multiple homes or me with another person, we do an LLC so it would protect that specific asset under just that asset. So if I ever got into an altercation with somebody, that's all that they could go after.
You got it. And it just kind of creates a little bit of a shell around the rest of your assets to help protect them against things that go on, because things do go on. We would talk to them about upping liability protection in other areas of their financial model. And so those are steps that we would typically take prior to getting to the point of making that investment. But to, again, further answer your question, I think you should provide for 12 months of buffer.
And what would you say the most common mistake, if you had to pick one, the most common mistake that you see people making in today's market with their choice of investments? Because you make your little model out, but that doesn't mean I have to follow your model. What's the best number one mistake that you see people make?
I would suggest to you probably the number one mistake that we see people make is they put their money into situations where they can't get to it. That decision might look like they buy into things where there's penalties to get them out. And so really to avoid that, follow a process that addresses protection, then you have your adequate savings, and then you go into the things that you're doing to try to grow your money. And just be really cautious before you give up control over your money.
Control over money, that's an important thing.
Yep.
So the key things that I think we'd like to have you guys remember is what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're buying your primary residence, have 3 to 6 months of reserves of your gross income. Is that one?
Yep.
The second one is if you're going to be buying investment rental property, always know that it's not always going to rent day one when you put it on the market, even in the best of conditions. So plan for the worst. And Todd, you said have 1 year's worth of reserves.
That's a good rule of thumb to start with.
And include in there the makeup that you're going to have to do. Anything else you'd like to say?
And again, these are situational questions that should be addressed specific to the individual we're talking to. And so in those instances, we're going to consult a legal advice, we're going to have proper counsel for tax purposes and all the different things that make up these financial decisions. So it's important to have a very good process to go through.
And see, that's why I like working with Todd, because he's so conservative. Otherwise, I'd go buy 5 homes and have 1 day's worth of income behind me. But no, anything else you'd like to say?
No, thanks for having me. We, our firm, Callis Wealth Management, we help our clients work towards wealth objectives, and again, oftentimes they do include real estate. And so there's great value. We're believers and like to own real estate ourselves, and think more people should have more of it. It's a good asset class.
Well, we are cautiously optimistic. We see great things going on in the marketplace, and we don't want you to miss out on the opportunities, but we want you to be as smart as you possibly can be going into this year of 2011 and moving on from there, because now is the time to start building your wealth for many years to come. Thank you very much, Todd. Thank you. Talk to Terry, sincerely with passion.